Hey everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today. We are about to embark on this massive, really fascinating journey to decode the cultural genetics of one of the most historically rich regions on the entire planet, Anatolia. Now, this explainer is designed to cut right through the noise. We're going to give you a direct, structured look at how this incredible landmass served as literally the blueprint for human civilization as we know it. We've got some incredible historical facts to unpack today, all drawn straight from our sources, and honestly, they're going to completely change how you view history. So let's just dive right in, shall we?
But first, I have a quick question for you. When you think of a modern luxury, something like central heating, you probably picture, I don't know, the 19th or 20th century, right? Well, what if I told you that you actually need to look way further back, like back to a stunning palace in eastern Anatolia? Just hold that thought for a second, because the answer we're about to uncover perfectly illustrates just how mind-blowingly advanced this region really was.
Okay, to make sense of thousands of years of history, here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, engineering wonders. 2, crossroads of faith. 3, the architecture of power. And finally, 4, living cultural heritage. Let's do this.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Engineering Wonders of the Ancient World. As you'll see, ancient urban planning here laid the literal physical foundation for the infrastructure we actually still rely on today.
Okay, here's the answer to our opening question. The sheer ingenuity here is absolutely astounding. Way out in Do Bayazit, there's the magnificent Ishak Pasha Palace, and it boasts the world's very first central heating system. No way, right? Instead of just relying on, drafty, isolated fireplaces, the engineers designed this incredibly complex network of hot water and air channels that ran straight through the walls to heat the entire palace. It's just a brilliant, highly sophisticated solution to those freezing eastern winters, and it was built ages before modern HVAC systems were even a thought.
Now, if we track this engineering across the centuries, you see this massive progression. Starting way back in the ancient era in Gaziantep, Islahiya, we've got the Yesemek workshop. This was the largest open-air stone quarry and sculpture workshop of its time. I mean, just imagine the pure logistics of carving monumental art directly out of bedrock. Then, fast forward to the Archaic period, and there's the Assos Athena Temple, which actually stands out as the very first and only Doric temple built in all of Anatolia. By the time we hit the Roman era, we're looking at structural marvels like Emperor Nero's Patara Lighthouse. Fun fact, that is actually the oldest standing ancient lighthouse in existence today. We even see huge leaps in public health, like the Ephes Latrina. And look, these weren't just simple outhouses. These were public toilets situated on a grand colonnaded street, complete with a fully functioning underground sewer system. Talk about advanced.
And it wasn't just infrastructure. Civic spaces were so meticulously planned out. Imagine actually walking into one of these ancient hubs. On the one hand, you'd have the Odeon. Think of this as a very intimate, roofed building designed specifically for perfect acoustics, mostly used for music or really focused council meetings. But on the other hand, you have the Teatro, or theater, which is this massive, unroofed, completely open-air structure built for huge public spectacles. So the takeaway here is that their architectural design was deeply intentionally tied to exactly how the space was going to be used socially and acoustically.
And you didn't just casually stroll into these highly developed urban centers. You arrived. The Tetrapylon in the ancient city of Aphrodisias, which is in modern-day Aydin, is this magnificent, four-sided monumental entrance gate. It served as this grand architectural transition. It was basically signaling to visitors, hey, you are now stepping into a prosperous, civilized, and highly engineered world.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, Crossroads of Faith and Healing. Anatolia's geographic position made it literally an epicenter for the spread of world religions, spirituality, and ancient medicine.
It's wild to see how early Christianity firmly rooted itself across this landscape. I mean, we're talking about historical figures like St. Nicholas, and yes, literally Santa Claus. He was born in Patara and actually served as a bishop in modern-day Demre. Then you have St. Paul, who delivered his very first sermon in Yalvac. This entire region was just pivotally important. It was even home to the 7 churches mentioned in the Book of Revelation, which were 7 key early Christian congregation centers over in Western Anatolia. And all of this cultural momentum eventually culminated in massive structural shifts for the faith, like the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. Led by Constantine I, this was the exact council where the core Christian creed was finally finalized.
But, faith wasn't only about the afterlife. It was deeply connected to physical well-being and just daily survival.
Over in the Bergama Asklepion, patients would actually go to seek out the god of healing, Telesphoros, alongside Asklepios, and their medical treatment was fascinating. They truly believed they could be cured through sleep and guided dreams while staying within the sanctuary. And for the health of the broader city, water was heavily celebrated. Take the Antonines Fountain in Segalassos. Massive statues of Dionysus, the wine god, flank the water source there. They acted as these really powerful symbols of abundance and vitality for the entire community.
Okay, that brings us to Section 3, the architecture of power and splendor. Because when subsequent empires took root here, they didn't just build functional cities. They built these breathtaking monuments designed to project absolute, unquestionable authority. We can actually see this shift in power simply by looking at how leaders were buried. For instance, the Seljuk Kumbet is instantly recognizable by its really sharp conical or pyramidal roof. Over time, that gave way to the Ottoman turba, which is characterized by these smooth, sweeping domed roofs. It's essentially this beautiful visual shorthand for the changing eras of Anatolian rulership. And for the living rulers, architectural layout was all about two things: security and prestige. If you were journeying inward through the Topkapi Palace gates, you'd start at the Bab Uhumian. That's the grand outer gate, accessible to the public. But as you move inward to the Babu Salam, the middle gate, access suddenly becomes heavily restricted. Finally, if you were lucky enough, you'd reach the Babu Sada, the Gate of Felicity. This was the super highly guarded entry to the Enderun, which were the Sultan's most private, intimate quarters. So literally every step inward was a structural reminder of the Sultan's elevated status and layered security.
That sense of authority was permanently woven right into the everyday cityscape. The Golden Gate, or Porta Aurea, located inside Yedikule in the Istanbul walls, was basically the ultimate status symbol. It was reserved exclusively for the triumphant victory parades of emperors. Nobody else used it. In religious architecture, the Edirne Ush Şerefeli Mosque projected huge early Ottoman wealth by featuring not just one, but four completely distinct minaret styles. We're talking fluted, spiral, and these intricate diamond patterns. And prestige lived in art, too. The famous Zugma Gypsy Girl mosaic, which is housed in the Gaziantep Museum, represents a Menad or Gaia figure. The hauntingly beautiful craftsmanship of this piece was a very clear, very public display of immense wealth and artistic patronage. Today, of course, this legacy of power is carefully preserved to tell the story of the nation. The Istanbul Naval Museum in Beşiktaş is actually Turkey's largest naval museum, and it's most famous for housing these incredibly ornate, grand sultanate boats that used to project imperial might right on the Bosphorus. On the other side of history, you have the Ankara Ethnography Museum. It stands as the very first state museum established in the Republic era. It holds a really solemn place in the country's foundation too, as it was the temporary resting place for the remains of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk until his final mausoleum, Ankara Kabir, was completed. Which brings us to our final stop, Section 4, our living cultural heritage. You know, the absolute most amazing thing about decoding this region is realizing that this ancient heritage isn't just locked away behind museum glass. It is a living, breathing part of daily life. Seriously, centuries-old traditions are still so vibrant today. Take the intense Kirk-Pinar oil wrestling over in Edirne. It keeps these incredibly specific traditions alive, like the red-bottom candle invitation and the dramatic booming calls of the Gazgar announcer, or the Mesir Majuna festival in Manisa. That's a communal healing festival born from a 41-spice paste originally prepared to cure Hafsa Sultan. Even your morning caffeine fix is historic. Registered by UNESCO back in 2013, Turkish coffee culture is completely unique worldwide. It's the only method where coffee is cooked and served with its grounds still in the cup. And we certainly can't forget the stunning visual art of Islamic Husni Hat, the UNESCO-registered cultural heritage of writing this just aesthetically beautiful calligraphy using Arabic letters. These aren't just artifacts, they are everyday practices. And amidst this vast, rapid sweep of thousands of years of history, modern communities are making active choices to protect this cultural pulse. A perfect example of this is the concept of Satazlo. Back in 2009, Seferihisar in Izmir was officially accepted as Turkey's very first slow city. The entire point of this initiative is a dedication to pushing back against our frantic modern world. They are actively choosing to preserve local, historical traditions, sustainable leading, and a beautifully relaxed pace of life. It's a modern commitment to ancient well-being.
So, the absolutely crucial point we've learned today is this. Anatolia isn't merely a graveyard of empires. It's a continuously evolving cultural laboratory. From the central heating of ancient palaces and the early roots of faith to the grand domes of power and, yeah, the cup of unfiltered coffee you might drink tomorrow morning, you are constantly interacting with thousands of years of human genius. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. You aren't just a passive observer of history. By learning about it, by understanding it, you become an active participant in carrying it forward. So tell me, which of these ancient legacies will you explore, or perhaps protect first? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep learning, stay curious, and I will catch you in our next explainer.